Hey y'all! So for this video, I decided to draw Topaz from Honkai Star Rail. So she's one of the, I guess she's one of the newer characters. I'm still learning how exactly to best explain the Honkai Star Rail characters. She has, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say she's part of the Hunt, group of people in the game. But I just know that she's really cute, and she has got one of those hogs with her that it looks like she bedazzled the thing. But in this drawing, I just have her with her little earpiece communicating. If you have played the game and you're kind of caught up in it, then there's a scene where she is talking to a Venturine in her earpiece, and it kind of does a cutscene. But also, apparently, I don't have her as a character. But apparently in one of her idle poses, she does that as well. I think there was another one where she was like answering the phone or something. But overall, her character is very adorable, which there's a lot of the Honkai Star Rail characters. I mean, they are too cute, and needless to say, I feel like that's just Hoyoverse in general. If you are playing the game, I hope everybody is enjoying the game as much as I am. And once again, still have not gotten Boot Hill, but I am working on it. If you are pulling in this game, who are you trying to pull for, and who's the best character that you think in the game? There's a lot of characters I've still yet to come in contact with, and I'm currently thinking about drawing maybe Welt from the game as well. It, of course, is a male character, but the thing that may throw me off is the glasses. Glasses are never my strong suit in any drawing, but practice makes perfect. Same with this. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, the base sketch for this starting out, I did not like it that much, the initial sketch. I kind of did a quick sketch on a piece of paper, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and draw it. And then I ended up drawing her, and I'm just like, okay, I can't spend forever. I'm gonna give myself a time constraint. I can only do this much, this much. So you'll notice the lighting does change. That's just one of the things with filming with natural light. But I did film this on 2 separate days. So the sketch and putting down the base colors I did on one day, and then I rendered the next day. I didn't have anything really to do the next day, so I kind of just took about 4 hours to render, which is like insane. But I had more issues, I think, more so with the hand. And then of course you just get into a headspace and you start enjoying what you're doing, and before you know it, time slips up. Really should start to set a timer for stuff like this, like do things at like 30-minute increments or 20-minute increments, because before I know it, so much time has passed, and I'm sure this has happened to many people as well. Just so much time has passed and you don't realize it, and then you're like, oh, I could have been doing more sketches or more drawings, and then instead you ended up hyper focusing. That is one of my faults. I do hyper focus. I really need to work on getting better at that, the time management issue stuff, especially whenever I start doing a couple of work days here and there. As I mentioned in my last video, I had a pretty major foot surgery that put me off of work from February up until now, and then potentially may have to have another big surgery, not to be like so TMI, but it would be nice to be able to do sketches in a certain amount of time and rendering and everything. That way, whenever I do go back to work full time, I can set some time aside to be able to do this and yet still have time with my family and everything. You know, occasionally I may touch grass, but that's in the future. So let's see here. Yeah, now this part of the sketch I was working on, I think this would be my 3rd sketch, because like I say, with all my sketches I do my base sketch, then a rough sketch, and then I do a sketch on top of that, and depending on how I feel, I may do another one on top of it. Which honestly, if I get the sketching down pat and then I feel like everything's placed correctly, I end up moving on to the coloring phase. It's all just learning curve. The more that we as humans do stuff on a repetition, the better off we are. Now I will say, I did increase the speed a little bit of this on the sketch portion, just so that I could just have the first 10 minutes of this video be focused towards the sketch, because I'm trying to split things up. And then for some reason there was like, at least I would say 25, if not 30 minutes of footage that got lost. I don't know how it happened, but my camera screen, it just went black. It filmed like a good first 20-ish minutes of putting colored, like the base colors down. And then after that, I went to look at the footage because I always just hit stop recording. And the footage was black. And I'm like, what the heck? But at least I do have everything else. And I was like, well, at least it was in the main rendering phase. But you'll notice some of it is kind of like cut up here and there. And the reason for that is just, I know y'all don't want a super, super long voiceover video. Although sometimes they are very relaxing. As I said before, I'm hoping to be able to do more ASMR videos in the future. And just really just putting time aside to be able to plan stuff is the big thing. Will say, out of all my drawings, I think this one, other than Ito's drawing from Genshin Impact, this drawing for the Honkai Star Rail people, I really, really, really like the way I rendered her eyes. I think I'm starting to get somewhat of a grasp on how best to render the eyes, but her hand position kind of threw me off a little bit. Needless to say, I took this from an image off of Pinterest, like somebody must have done like a screenshot of her in this pose, or even whenever she's talking to Aventurine. And it was difficult to figure out the best of angles. But I do notice that some of my older habits of some of my drawings came back. I could not get the, how can I say this? It's like, I don't know, some of the anime characters, it's like an invisible mouth. It's like, you know it's there, but it's very subtle. Instead, I ended up actually giving her a mouth. So this part of the sketch, you'll notice I'm coloring in red. The reason for that was because I wanted to make sure that I could differentiate between the hair and the sketch, but eventually I ended up putting it all the same color. But whenever I was doing this initial sketch, I was like, okay, where exactly do I need the hair to go and how should it fall? So Topaz, with her hair, it's a two-toned color. The underside of it is red and the top part is like a silver gray color. Thankfully, I will say I didn't have an issue with the silver gray color. I had an issue finding probably the correct red. I try not to go too bright and vibrant because it would be on underneath. And then I try to focus on highlights, but with each sketch we're learning. I think too, I need to learn how to make the hair strands more, how can I say this, flowy. And then that way I'm not having to erase and redo so much. And that would just require more studies. It's definitely different doing the real hair versus the anime style hair or semi-realistic hair. It does take practice. And I did take the liquify tool a little bit at first. It kind of pushed the eyes together a little bit more. And at one point in time I thought that I needed to like liquify the face some more. And then I was like, nope, I'm just going to undo that and just let it be. Now another one of my faults I notice in sketching, and you probably have seen this already in my videos, I do not flip my screen that much. I very rarely flip the canvas, which I know that many people say flip the canvas to make sure things look right, but I don't know. I guess it's from the time of me sketching on paper and drawing on paper. I mean, I never flipped the paper. I would just draw on the paper and it's just like one thing. And so most of the time whenever I'm sketching and doing stuff, I kind of forget about the flipping the canvas. So right there, I ended up changing the hue and saturation of the sketch itself in order to provide like better differentiation with the skin tone and the background and everything. So once again, it's a camera thing. It makes it look very saturated at times. And I promise in person it was not that saturated because first off, my screen is down to like 20% for the brightness, because in that way the images are a lot easier to see when recording. I've been playing with some of the camera settings and it still is not how I am needing it to be in order to increase the brightness of my screen. So it's the white balance, I think it is, that I was researching, that it really blows it all out. So I ended up doing somewhat of clouds because like I said, clouds are my default and I love clouds. I ended up doing the stars with a white and I did an add layer with that. And then what I ended up doing was taking chromatic aberration and doing that over probably like 5% on the chromatic aberration. And then I did Gaussian blur as well. And that really helped to kind of merge the background. I'm trying not to use a Gaussian blur on the character and to focus really just probably put that more so towards the background. But I'm also trying to not lean onto the Gaussian blur a lot. Now you'll notice on one part of the sketch I did write skin because it was very, very hard to find a good layout of this character, meaning the colors and everything of her outfit and how her gloves were, because it seemed like at first I thought there was maybe like a yellow star on her glove, but it turns out that was her skin, or at least it appears to be her skin. Once there's more character designs out, and I mean, if anybody has any recommendations, please let me know, because I am all ears for that. Because normally if I have the character, I'm able to like go and look at the character, but I do not have Topaz. She's one of those. I did not pull for her. I ended up pulling, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Harmony and her on the banner, and then I ended up getting Harmony, and I really, really like her. Topaz, at the point in time whenever I was doing the story quest, she kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, But then, of course, after I finished it, I'm like, okay, she's not as bad as I thought she was going to be. You ever get in that mindset of focusing on one thing? See, this is where my screen goes way darker. So needless to say, it's pretty dark. Now I was like, oh, that's a little bit too dark. But it does become quite difficult to color some of these characters. But I'm actually learning that I kind of like coloring on the lower saturation with the screen, because then I get to see and how can I say this, like hyper focus on the brightness of things or the darkness of things, and I'm trying to really just focus on the main color aspect of it. So you'll see that I have like a palette with the eye colors, and I always use this one for the base color, and then after that I kind of just wing it. So I do that one for the darker part, and I think actually I took some colors from the blue background and put it on top of that, and then ended up, yeah, here we go. And I put that on top and just pull from the lighter part of that to make that the darker highlight. And I do end up getting a brighter gray blue for the bottom part to make that more of a white highlight. And then I was like, you know what, this is crazy, just color the whole entire eye. So then I just color the whole entire eye. I do like explaining the process and the mindset between things, because I feel like it may help some people, especially with rendering. Now, needless to say, this was still me putting down the base colors. I spent a good portion. I noticed I spent a good portion on the eyes and the hair. This character's hair, though, I did not spend as much time as the last one. I will say that. I feel like I kind of cut that down, but I was really focusing on the eyes. And I do end up taking this blue color that I start to lay down in space. I do take that blue and I put it into the eyelashes, and I feel like that does make a difference whenever you're able to incorporate the eye color into the eyelashes. And then I end up putting like a mauve, or kind of like the skin color but not really, on top of it whenever I do the final rendering phase. So with laying down the base colors, everything is being laid down under the sketch, of course, which the sketch is set to multiply. Now I've got it turned, I think I have it turned down a little bit. Remember what exactly I had it turned down to, but I do have it turned down. And then once I get all the base colors kind of laid out and semi-rendered, I end up duplicating my color, my multiply layer, which was the sketch layer, and then I group it and flatten it. And then I end up coloring on top. I always add a layer on top of that, because in that way I don't mess it up initially, because the way my luck runs, I would end up added the program somehow or another. And then once you're added the program and out of the gallery, it automatically saves wherever you are. So if there's something that you wanted to go back to and to fix at that exact moment, You are up a creek without a paddle, for sure. So I do take some of the white from the eye and use that in the highlight. Let's see, and I continue to bring the hair color down. I was trying to see how I felt about having the eye kind of peek out from behind the hair color like some of the characters do. Needless to say, I do have a glove for drawing, but I do not use it. Half the time I cannot find it, and then I really don't like the feel of it. Which, of course, I guess if I really force myself to use it, it make a difference. So I kind of go layer by layer. I end up doing the skin first and working on the highlights and the contours of that, then work onto the eyes, and then go onto the hair. I saw somebody else before. They did like the hair on 2 different layers. So they had the hair on the front, and then they just colored behind the skin color and everything. But I end up kind of going out of bounds with the skin color initially, because then I don't want to feel limited. I don't know what it is about that limitation, but it gets me each and every time. But yes, I end up doing the skin, the eyes, the hair, and then I start laying down the base color for the clothes. Like I said, that part of it, I don't know what happened to my camera. I'm just not having the best of technology things at the moment, and it has not been my friend. It's like I get one thing down pat, and then whoop, another thing happens. But I do end up using, you probably could see it a little bit earlier, some of the purples into the skin. And that actually pulled the purple from the background. And I'm learning to do that because then it helps to create a more cohesive piece. But of course, you don't go for like the absolute most saturated purple. You just mess with that little color wheel and end up going from one to the other. So if I'm not mistaken, yep, now we're on to the official rendering phase. Now what I mean by official rendering phase is all my layers have been merged together and I am coloring over the sketch. So I end up, like I say, really hyper focusing on the eyes, but I do really like how they turned out. I would like to play with more color variations in the future as well, because actually with her eyes, it's like it goes from a blue, a purple, and then it has some magenta color in it as well. And then it's very cool how they have the pupils in these characters. That's like with Hua, her eyes, the pupils is like a paw, and then hers is diamond shaped. Aventurine's is diamond shaped as well, I think. No. His eyes remind me of more like a creepy bullseye kind of a thing going on. And then it's just really interesting how they come up with so many different variations. It's not just like a plain old round pupil, round eye, like iris, round pupil, round iris, and that's it. No, they incorporate some different odd shapes, and then some of them there's just plain eyes, and I do like the variations. Definitely keeps the mind working and it going. So I actually looked up on Pinterest again for Topaz's eye, like the exact shape and everything, because the way her eye is, it does have a different shape in a sense. Probably more so like the inner shape, the way the colors focus and work off of each other. So I kind of just rendered the eye, excuse me, I can't talk, rendered the eye as much as I could. And then I once again played with the idea of the hair, like part of it kind of being transparent in order to see the eye, yet you still notice that there's hair there. I noticed a lot of her official fan art has this, and her official art, not fan art, her official art has this as well. And I've noticed some other artists and creators that have done it too, but I have yet to perfect this at this moment. So it kind of just end up putting a little bit more hair color over it. Overall, I will say, whenever we see the final product, I am kind of pleased with it. Of course, with anything, we always look at stuff and we're like, oh, I could have done that differently, or could have done this differently. So just put that away for mental side notes for the future. So let's see. I was trying to figure out, one second, who exactly. Okay, so needless to say, Boot Hill's on this banner. And then there's also Was it Schwan? I butcher these names all the time. I'm so sorry. But she's a really cute character. Her style kind of reminds me of like the electric characters from Genshin Impact. I will say these characters, their styles and everything's a little bit different. As far as it's not really, how can I say this? Like not a vision. Like they use light cones for weapons and traces and relics, and their Eidolons is their like their constellations. And it's very interesting to see the comparison between the two. But needless to say, you have things like the hunt and the erudition, and you got the harmony, and which Robin is with the harmony. I think I mistakenly said harmony before, but Robin is harmony. Robin and Topaz was on the same banner. I was thinking about her character detail was harmony. But yes, I would like to try to draw her again, both Robin and Topaz, but more so Topaz with the little hog with her, because it's just so adorable. Because it's like a bedazzled looking hog, like he has a bow and everything on his back, and just looks so adorable. There is a part of the game where you get to play as the villains. So you're playing as like the hog, or you're playing as the like the Mars-struck characters, and I found it very interesting to be able to fight from that point of view, and to understand. So I almost forgot this part of the earpiece. Whenever I was looking on some other reference art, the curly thing. The wire for the earpiece, it's on the back side, and I almost forgot it. I'm like, why does this look so bare right here? Like I was thinking it's kind of odd, and then I started looking more, and then I zoomed into it. I'm like, oh my word, I can't forget this part of it. So I've got that part added as well, and it took me a minute to figure out how exactly to best put the swirls, because that's a whole nother understanding of how best to do swirls. I feel like I brought it to life pretty well. Has anybody wished for Topaz, or do you have Topaz in your character arsenal? If so, what's your favorite thing about her, or any of the other characters? Currently, I think Dan Hong is one of my favorite, and of course, I've got Natasha. She's a good healer. I really like her, and I put her and who else? I put Natasha and Jeopard, or Jeppy, as his sister likes to call him. I put those two always together because he's a really, really good shield, and Natasha's a good healer, and got them both pretty leveled up as well. I'm trying to learn as to how best to fight in this game, because it's not like how you do in Genshin, certain levels and talents. You really got to make sure that your team works together, and the weakness of the character is that. Yeah, here we are. We're moving on to the design part of her shirt. I did not realize that only one part of her shirt has it's like diagonals on them. And so I was like, how am I going to incorporate this and make it look the way it needs to do? So what I ended up doing was doing a multiply layer, and then I just went over it. And then I ended up turning the multiply layer down just a smidge, so it's not so just right there in your face kind of a thing. And I do apologize for the camera shaking. Like I said, the camera is attached to the desk, and it does shake. I try to keep the shaking to a minimum on it, but it's sometimes pretty hard to do. I still can't get over that I went through the whole entire drawing phase, and I still had my reminder that this is skin. This is not like a part of the glove, this is skin. Let's see here. With her, I would say one issue I did have was the bracelet. It was very, very hard to find, exact references of the position of it. Like I said, if anybody has any recommendations of where to find good reference photos at for like official reference photos and not just fan art, let me know in the comments below, because it'll be a great help to me and probably others as well. I know with Genshin I can use the Game Fashion Archive, but with Honkai Star Rail it's not on there at the moment. I don't know if it will be, but it would be very helpful if it was. What else to talk about? So I actually do end up adding a couple of multiply layers and also a couple of add layers. Needless to say, they're not all at 100% opacity, but there is one part that I ended up doing with her. I guess it's like a vest onesie thing. Her outfit's very sparse, to say the least. But I do kind of make it more well, I wanted it to be more like holographic, was my idea, but I haven't really done a whole bunch of holographic stuff before, so it's very interesting to play with that. Oh, 1 second. And so when the whole entire time and the dogs weren't barking, and all of a sudden they all pick up. Alrighty. So this is, I ended up accidentally cutting out part of, like, putting the design on that, what would it be, this flip, the right side of the coat. I accidentally did cut out some of that, and I didn't mean to. And the way that I ended up editing it, it was a lost cause after the fact. I'm like, oh lord. But the main thing is that y'all do get to see the holographic part of it, which is, I feel like that's pretty helpful as well, to be able to notice that and to see it. Now, needless to say, her outfit doesn't really have so much a holographic effect. It's very bright on the triangles with the red color and the maroon color, and then other spots it's not as noticeable. So I ended up making her harness strap all kind of the same color, with the mindset that the one on her neck that I guess holds it up, it's going to be a little bit darker than the rest. I'm still learning how best to use these brushes. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I always put in the comment section, or not the comment section, the description section. The brushes I end up using when drawing are from JingSketch, and you can get the brushes I use, which is like the sketch and the round brush, and there's another smudge brush that I do use a smudge brush occasionally, but it's only one brush I end up using, and all of it comes from JingSketch. So far, like, I've used several brushes before, but I really like the simplicity of these brushes, and then of course you can modify them however you need to best make them to fit your drawing style or what you're trying to achieve. And I will say, another part of this outfit that gave me issues was these little, I don't know what they are, the little I guess they're maybe a clasp or a part to hold it, but I had issues with that, and I think it has a lot to do with the angle and not having the best of references for exactly what I was trying to achieve. So this is an add layer I end up using. And one good thing, I've noticed that I like to do this with especially metal accessories, because then it helps to bring in other colors. I'll do like a multiply layer, but select the lightest color on the metal piece and put that on there, and then I'll end up doing an add layer. But of course later on I can pick and pull from these colors a lot easier versus me going and trying to find the exact color myself. So you'll notice on that left side, like the coat, it's got all the triangles and everything, and I do apologize that I missed that part. So this is where I wanted to do like kind of a holographic film over it. I was thinking that'd be pretty cool to have all the different triangles and designs on it. So you'll see that I end up doing this all over the coat part, and then I end up doing it on the other side as well. I also do this whenever I do finally render the bracelet. I do this over the bracelet as well. I don't know, I feel like it's like a not really a cheating way, it's just, I don't know how best to explain it. It's just a simple way to be able to render a holographic effect. Because I wanted some other kind of contrast on her jacket part of it, or her vest part, whatever you end up calling this top part. So do the chromatic aberration, which kind of displaces the color. And then for a second there, I'm like, this looks a little bit off. But then I was like, oh, I didn't have it on the add layer. So I ended up switching it to an add layer. Because at first I was like, maybe I need to do bloom, I need to do this. But it wasn't any of that. I just didn't have it on the add layer, which is normally what I would do if I'm doing that. See, here we go. I end up changing. And then, yeah, this is where I did bloom. And I was like, I mean, it helped some, but it didn't really achieve what I was looking for. So then I do the Gaussian blur, just a smidgen, to try to blow it out a little bit. And this is where I was like, let me adjust this, see if this makes a difference. Because I really didn't want it to be fully blown out. And of course, the lovely multiply layer. So this is what I was talking about. Whenever you're trying to pick a color, but it's not really the color that you're 100% needing or wanting, and you don't know how best to pick it, if you do that multiply layer, it does help to bring either out certain vibrancies of colors, especially if you pick the lighter tone and go from there. But once I learn more about how best to render stuff, I will continue to share my knowledge and understanding. So I end up using a brown red color and going to outline, and I did find that this helped on certain parts of it to help bring some definition to it so it's not so fuzzy, and to bring some understanding of, hey, this shape goes with this shape goes with that. Even though we do a sketch in the beginning and we cover it up, I still end up putting lines back into it. I think it does help to bring some kind of definition to it. Now, whether or not I always choose the right color for lining, that's a different story. Definitely a learning process. Instead of saying, like, trust the process, we just say, like, learning process. It's the learning process. Because it really is. So overall at this point, I was like, okay, I think we're getting to a good point. And then I ended up outlining her. I don't know if you call it like a barrette. Yeah, I guess it is a little barrette to help it to stand out just a little bit more on its own. Now, I will say, you'll notice whenever I do the time lapse towards the end, that towards the end of that video, there's like some more add layers and some changes to the background, which I end up not even using. Because I wanted at first to have some more of that little chromatic aberration in the back, like the broken glass kind of a feeling. But that did not. It did not look right, and I probably, if I would have worked on it a little bit more, it would have done well. But it's another one of those things that you end up looking at something so much and you're like, okay, time to move on. And generally that's what I think I end up doing with a lot of pieces. Like I look at it, I work on it as much as I can, and once I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't know where else to go from here, and then I kind of stop working on it and then move on to the next piece. And then of course after moving on to the next piece, I'm like, that's what I could have done differently. But of course, as I always say, we ourselves are our own worst critics, as the saying goes. I think I ended up making her look more doll-like. Which is a style, to say the least. Alright, is this where... I think I'm still on the multiply. Yeah, I'm still on the multiply layer, because I noticed that her bracelet, it actually has more of a... not really a 3D, it's like a bangle. And then I realized it had like a split on it. So this is where I wanted to try to add some more definition to it. And then I added some other, I think I did more of like a blue. And then, is this where? Yep. So I think this is where I end up doing the add thing. Because I was like, At first I was just going to go like this all throughout it, but And I was like, I kind of like the idea of that holographic kind of feel. Because it'd be a very shiny bangle. So this is where I do the triangles in place of where the darker ones are. And then I was like, no, let me do something a little different. So I kind of go all over the place a little bit. I embrace the imperfections of diamonds and triangles and whatever random shape I put on there. Which I know there's probably somebody that's like screaming at me from the other side of the screen, like, why did you do it that way? Well, this is the only way I know how to do it at the moment. So then I selected all of that, and then that's where I did the chromatic aberration. I can't remember at the moment. Yes, I ended up doing bloom as well. And the Gaussian blur. And then I think at that point I was thinking, what else can I do? Oh, I thought I could put it up under the multiply layer and that it would look alright, but I was like, no, that's not what I wanted to do. So I just ended up turning down the brightness on it. And then I ended up merging everything together. So you'll see I have a lot of duplicates of my drawing because I am afraid of commitment sometimes. And if I get at a point like, okay, I need to duplicate this because if I screw it up, I can at least go back to my duplicate. So I do end up doing that. And I can't remember if... I don't think it's going to be visible at this point in it. But I do end up doing an overlay layer on top of the skin. I can't remember if it was like towards the end, but it ends up adding some more color variations to the skin itself because I felt like it was too pale at one point in time. Of course, looking back at it now, it's not really pale. It's a lot more vibrant in color for sure. So then I was like, okay, so if her head's facing this way, we have to have a shadow back the other way. So I ended up using, I think, the blue. Yep, the blue. And I end up putting that on it would be her left side. And then I just kind of erase out and take out parts that would be a little bit brighter. I felt like it needed a little bit more focus on it. I do hope that these videos help people, and I know I enjoy making them. It does, like I said before, hold me to a certain level of, it's like an accountability kind of a thing, because I had goals to be able to post so many times a week and to draw certain characters, and it has brought me out of my shell for sure. It really makes me think of things that could be done differently, or things that I didn't realize that I was thinking at the point in time. I'm like, oh, this is why I did what I did. And as I always say, if y'all have any future recommendations of characters to draw or references that could be used for drawing, just let me know in the comments, because it's not only helping me, but it can also help others as well. And we are just all learning art together the best way that we know how. But yes, I think at this point I was like, okay, I feel like it's about done. Yeah, because I was looking to see what the difference was. So I always do the clippy mask and then merge my stuff down, because a lot of the time I'm outside of the drawing canvas. Alright, so now we're going to the time-lapse portion of the video. And I hope everybody has enjoyed this video and is doing well, and all their wishing adventures are going as exactly as they need to. And until the next video, everybody take care. Bye-bye.